Okay. So this is Drew Cifrodelli with Zpot Real Estate, and I'm here today with Derrick Magee. Now, I noticed that people use your nickname, Magee, right?
Yeah. A lot of people use McGee.
All right.
Yeah.
And Derrick's with Goosehead Insurance, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him at a networking event, and he's helped my children and a couple of my clients with some insurance needs. And so I'm here today just to have a quick interview with him. And Derrick, if there's anything you want to add to your profile or your bio, please chime in.
Absolutely, Drew. Pleasure being here.
So, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile that I saw you're a Penn State grad. So I thought, hey, everybody that goes to Penn State likes to talk about it a little bit. Have you been? I know they have a party like every year. And I had some kids that were working for me, and they went back for this party, and were just raving about how big this party is.
Yeah, during the summer, they have a festival that goes on during the summer that everybody that went to Penn State used to go, and they have a street fair with a lot of different businesses, and it's just a nice get together during the summer while you're on summer break. I haven't done that in a long time, but going back to the games is always an excellent experience. This past year, obviously, I like to erase from my memory. This Penn State football did not do very well this past year, but overall, it's been a great experience. When I went from 2000 to 2004, the football team had its worst years, which really crushed me while I was going there. But ever since then, they've done fantastic, and I'm proud to be an alumni.
That's great. My boys are wrestlers since they were 5. And one of my sons is at Rider, and Rider occasionally will wrestle Penn State because it's a D1 school. And, that usually doesn't go too well for Rider.
But Penn State's program is definitely top notch with the wrestling. I never got into it too much, but I've been a fair weather fan following it, and the domination of what they've been doing, I think at least the last 10 years is really impressive. They're top notch program as far as the wrestling goes, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Rutgers has apparently stepped up quite a bit in that arena, and of course, Ohio State is always Penn State's rival, right?
Iowa.
Iowa
I know. Yeah, Iowa's big with wrestling. I believe Oklahoma State used to be pretty big, but as far as football goes, Ohio State, I just can't stand them, and unfortunately, they've been owning us. So I wish I could talk a little smack on them, but they've owned us the last. For a very long time now. So hopefully the shoe will be on the other foot sooner than later. But it's Ohio State's been our nemesis for sure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your business. Where you're located, what you specialize in.
Yeah. So me and my business partner opened up Goosehead Insurance November of 2024. So it's been a little over a year now that we've opened our doors. We specialize in personal lines. We also do a little commercial, but we do home, auto, renters, boats, umbrella, life, commercial, like I said. You name it, we do it. So we handle from A to Z. I'm open, from Monday to Friday, basically 9 to 9, but whenever I get a call or an email, I always work on it for everybody. So we specialize, like I said, in personal lines, but we also do commercial if anybody needs that.
That's great. So you're located in Wall, I think you told me, right?
Yeah, Wall Township. We're right off of 34, right by the Goddard School. So if anybody ever wants to walk into the office, I'm here 5 days a week. During the weekends, I usually just work from home. But calling and emailing is usually the best way to contact me. But I'm also available for walk-ins if anybody ever wants to come and swing and say hi.
Cool. And now, are you licensed in New Jersey, or can you write in other states? How does that work?
So I'm licensed in New Jersey, New York. New York is a little tough right now, especially for automobiles. A lot of the carriers are only dealing with in-state brokers. So, if you're out of state, like my home base is in New Jersey. So, I only have a very limited amount of carriers in New York. I also do Connecticut, Maryland, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is wide open. Maryland is wide open. New Jersey is a little tougher, especially if you're by the shore. As far as the homes go, it's a little limited with the carriers. If you're within, it used to be 5 miles of the ocean. Now it's, of the shore. Now it's more of 7 to 8 miles from the shore. So it gets a little
It's
more
pretty much the
difficult.
whole island that I live on. So
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
Exactly.
this might be 16 miles wide. I think it's like a half a mile. I mean, along the shore, and then maybe a
Yeah,
half a mile deep, maybe a
yeah,
mile in some spots.
yeah, exactly. So some of those areas right now it's extremely tough to ride in. I still have the carriers that do it. However, most of the standard carriers have pulled out of those areas. So, until the carriers start coming back in those areas within, like I said, 7 to 8 miles from the shore, the prices are kind of going to be what they are. It's take it or leave it type of area, which unfortunately, even with the flood, flood insurance keeps on rising every year. So, which I also do flood, if I forgot to mention that. So yeah, it's a little difficult right now, but they're saying it's going to loosen up a little more this year. I'll believe it when I see it, but I hope they're correct.
So if you've got somebody who's got a house that they want to insure, along, close to the water or whatever, or any other kind of situation where they're trying to, everybody's trying to keep their costs under control, right? But also get the right coverage. So how do you work to make sure that, you're saving the money, but getting them the coverage they need?
Yeah, so we do a replacement cost estimator, which is going to show what the value is worth for the home. So when I do a quote for a client, I usually have like a 5 to 10 minute conversation with them, just to get all the information that they can about the home. Also, if it's a new buyer, get the inspection reports, get the selling disclosure from the selling agent, and just really get an in-depth view of what's going on with the house. If it's got a basement, the finishes, things like that. And then I go out to all the different carriers that we have on the shore. So right now, I'd say we have about 6 to 7 that are writing, depending on how far you are from the actual shoreline, that are writing in that area. I go to all the carriers, shop around, and see who comes back with the best price. But most importantly, I make sure that they are covered. If I feel like certain carriers are only going to allow, for example, like when they might exclude wind and hail damage. Obviously, you want to wind and hail damage being by the shore. We get some strong storms, so you want to make sure that you're covered. So if something is going to be excluding that, I automatically just put that to the side because I'm not going to really offer that to my clients. So I go to do my due diligence with all the carriers, put everything in the replacement cost estimator to the best of everybody's knowledge, and then I spit back rates and I offer the best price with the best coverage.
Right. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where you can say to somebody, well, if you do this to the house after you buy it, you'll be able to save this much money on, on your insurance? Does that ever
Yeah,
come up?
absolutely. Yeah, so especially with roof age. So if somebody is telling me they have basically the carriers are looking for, obviously the newer the better, but once you get to that 20-year mark, a lot of carriers are going to be shut out. A lot of carriers are not looking for a roof that's over 20 years. So I'll tell the clients, hey, if you get a new roof on, obviously it's a major expense for everybody. However, if you do it, it will definitely, that's probably the number one writing factor besides from where your home is located that the carriers are looking for. Certain things like updating your furnace, updating your water heater, updating your electrical, plumbing. Those things are definitely going to help you out as well, especially with the older homes. In certain areas in New Jersey, a lot of homes are in the early 1900s, especially the more up north that you go. So the more updates you do to that, the lower that we can get your pricing. And if there's any oil tanks on the premises, if you can afford switching it over to natural gas, that's going to help you out a lot as well. But yeah, the more things that you do to your home, especially with the roof goes, the cheaper we can get your insurance, and the more it opens up. If you do want to stick with your older roof, you can do what's called actual cash value. Obviously, everything depreciates. So if something does happen to your roof, for example, and you have actual cash value, they only are going to pay you what they feel that the roof is worth. So they're going to subtract what it will cost to rebuild your roof, and subtract it by the depreciation over the years. So let's say 20 years of depreciation, you're not going to get much from that policy, but you will be covered a little bit of something.
Right.
So that's something to think about. Besides the actual cash value, you have replacement costs. So that's figuring that, replacing your roof completely at whatever the new costs are. So that's what most people want, is replacement costs. That way it does not take into account depreciation. It's just getting you a new roof at a new condition when if anything happens to it.
Right. So, all right. I'm just thinking to myself, so what kinds of things, destroy a roof? Obviously wind, is probably
the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wind and hail, especially like where the siding meets the roof. I had actually probably the 3 in the last month where, there's a leak going in from, just a little siding, where the roof meets with the siding, and
Right.
that's a big spot. And it just trickles down, and it gets it affects your drywall, and, anything else that it can. So once it gets inside, obviously the situation gets even worse. So that's why, a lot of these carriers nowadays, they do an inspection within, I would say, the first month of your policy. They'll send somebody out. Some of them do drones. Some of them do satellite images, and they see the conditions of your property. If you have any debris on your property, they're going to want you to clean that up. They're going to look at your roof. If you're telling them that your roof was done in 2021, and they're looking at the condition of your roof and they're seeing something quite the opposite, they're going to let you know. And they can either drop you, or you can make the appropriate fixes, and they'll keep you around. It's getting tougher out there for sure.
Yeah, I had a boat for about 15 years. It was a cabin cruiser, and the insurance company came out and surveyed it once. And it was interesting because they gave me a list of all the things that I needed to do to the boat. Some I had to do in order to keep the policy, and others I could do to reduce the cost of the policy. And it was interesting to see that list. One of the things that they made me do, which I thought was interesting, is to have basically a bag of seat cushions, but not actual seat cushions, just pieces of seat cushion, right? In like a mesh bag. And I was out on another friend's boat one day, and the boat was sinking. And I pulled up his floorboard and looked inside, and I saw the water was coming in through a hole around the drive shaft. And so I said to him, well, first of all, I figured we were sinking because I heard the bilge pump running, and I said, that bilge pump's not stopping. There's something wrong. And he's like, you think so? And I'm like, yeah. Took a look. Boom, see the water coming in. So then we're driving the boat, and as you're driving, the water goes back out because somehow it creates, I think, a vacuum of some sort, sucks all the water out, which is fine. And of course, your battery doesn't die. So the pump, unless the pump fails, you're not sinking.
Right.
But he couldn't just leave the boat in the water overnight for the next morning. So it's like 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday night. And I said to him, go pull up to my boat I jump on my boat. I grab one of these sponges, the seat cushions, and I stuff the seat cushion into the hole. And sure enough, it worked. It just,
Oh, there you go.
that's what was
Learn
for,
something new every day. Yeah,
right?
I had no idea. Yeah.
And it slowed it down enough that the bilge pump could fight it, right?
Yeah.
It just basically brought it down to a trickle, and the bilge pump was able to handle that amount of water with no problem. Didn't kill the battery. It made it to the next morning, and he got the boat pulled, and they repacked the shaft. But
Wow.
so that was pretty cool that the insurance company knew that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it. It's I understand the frustration. Like a lot of customers get angry when they have an inspection. They have to make a couple fixes. However, put the shoe on the other foot. If somebody trips on, let's say their property has a lot of debris on it from they got work done on their home and they just left it out. They haven't put it away yet. If somebody trips and falls on it, it's a sue happy world nowadays. So you got to understand where the insurance company is coming from. They don't want to pay out the liability on your policy if they don't have to. They want to limit their exposure. So, some of the things, is it a pain in the butt? Of course. However, is it going to save you in the long run? Probably. If something is going to happen, they want it to happen organically instead of just having a bunch of building materials out on your porch and someone trips over and tries to sue you. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, luckily you're not in California with the fires, because of course there's all kinds of stuff going on there, putting stones around their houses now you can't have anything flammable within like 20 feet. It's like all these different things.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of things out there, and that's another thing that everyone's got to understand. Some of these are nationwide carriers, so if something in California is going on and it's affecting millions and millions of hundreds of millions of dollars, it might affect the nationwide policies just because it's a huge travesty that happened. Like when Sandy happened here in New Jersey. Obviously, that was kind of a game changer. I wasn't in the industry yet, but now that I'm understanding more of it, it's a huge loss for everybody. So it's things that you can do to kind of prevent.
It's funny. I'm on the island here in Island Beach, New Jersey, so between Point Pleasant and Seaside Park, and I've been coming down here my whole life, and now I live down here, but the changes after Sandy, basically they rebuilt all the infrastructure. So, prior to Sandy, we would have brownouts every summer because the power lines weren't, good enough. And, since then they redid all the infrastructure. So the roads are nice. We don't get brownouts really like we used to, although it seems like it's coming back now because they built so many big houses.
Right. Yeah.
Starting to happen again, but then they went and they built. Remember where the ocean opened up to the bay right at the bottom of the Manahawkin Bridge?
Yep.
Well, they built all those houses back. I think there's only one lot left.
Yeah. Now, is everyone raised nowadays? I'm assuming, or is that mandatory or no?
I would say that they don't look raised, but they're higher than they were before. So they put them on pilings and then they filled in the sand around them. So they don't really look raised, but they're certainly higher than they used to be.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And now, they have the dunes on the beach. So of course everybody's happy with that because they want to have the house high enough to see over the dunes. Anybody with an old house can't see over the dunes anymore.
Yeah, they can't see over same thing with Sandy. Like people were complaining, I lost my views. It's like, well, do you want your house? Like, what are you going to do? It's kind of, a precautionary measure nowadays, and you got to do it.
Another weird thing though, is when you're down here, you see the amount of money they spend replenishing the beach. And you do realize that it's probably the insurance companies that are getting the government to spend the money because there's no other good reason. They refilled the whole beach this year, and the first bad storm, it was gone.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
insane.
So I don't know what they're gonna do. They're fighting a losing battle, and the dunes keep getting bigger. I don't know if you noticed, but every year they seem like they're growing like 2 to 3 feet. So
Right.
I don't know when they're gonna stop growing.
Yeah. That's a good question. Pretty soon, even the mansions aren't going to be able to look over them.
I know. So all right. So anything else you want to talk about with your business? What made you get into it? What do you love best about it?
Yeah.
Stuff like
So I was in logistics for 17 years, and before we started, recording, we're talking about COVID. COVID kind of opened my eyes where my business partner has been in insurance for over 20 years. So I saw what he was building and wanted to join his team. I reached the mountaintops in logistics. I was vice president for exports, and I was doing very well. And COVID, we had our son was due on September of 2019, and so once he was born, and then COVID happened basically right after that, it kind of opened my eyes where I wanted to spend more time with him. I wanted to see him grow up. I wanted to see him play sports. I wanted to enjoy life with him. And I felt in my career before that, I would not be able to do that. So I decided to make the leap. Obviously, a lot less money in the beginning. When I decided to do the leap in, God, I think it was 2021, not only did I decide to do it, but then we found out we were pregnant again. So it wasn't planned, and it wasn't, the best time for it to happen, but it is what it is. God works in mysterious ways, and we made it work. So I decided to open a Goose Head, in the middle of the transition, just because, we're being told that, it's basically a lot of back office work. And Goosehead is I would say they're more of a technology company first, insurance company second. So their technology is outstanding. So, I have rates coming up instantaneously after putting in all the information. Is it the final rates? No, but it gives me an idea of what the rates are going to be. Their customer service on their back end, you don't realize how much customer service you have to do after you write a policy. When you write a policy, it's only in the beginning. You're going to have customers that are going to miss payments. You're going to have customers that want to add on takeaway cars. They updated their home, so they want to update their policies. With Goosehead, we decided to invest in that because the back office takes care of anything that happens after the policy is sold, which is really what I wanted help with, because updating these policies is a full-time job by itself. So we have a great customer service team behind us where I can kind of focus on selling, and obviously I'm still here for the clients if they need anything urgently, but it really just helps me focus on selling and growing the business, and hopefully I can add a team member onto our team within the end of this year. Is really what the goal is. So it's something where I did not do things like this. If I was in my old industry, I would not be talking to you. I would not be joining business groups. I would not be getting out of my comfort zone, and really trying to build a brand. I did that at my old job, but it was different, big time juggernauts, businesses, where this is more individual based, and I'm growing my network and finding new people in different industries that now I can refer to my customers. Example, if I know somebody that's looking to buy a home, I will refer them to you. I have electricians that I work with. I deal with a junk removal company. I met a dealership, a new car dealership at LFG. So there's a lot of people that I'm meeting that I'm looking to really, give value-added service to my customers and to my friends as well. Anybody that needs anything. I was never the guy to go to say, hey, do you know somebody that does this? I was never that guy. Now, with me growing my network, say, hey, do you know somebody that does electrical work? Yeah, here. You know somebody that's a realtor? Yeah, here. A mortgage guy? Yeah. So now I'm kind of like, I'm actually adding value to my friends' lives, my family's lives, and even with the insurance for myself, I'm adding, making sure that my family members are covered correctly. I'm making sure that I'm covered correctly, and that their families are covered and their assets. Things where you don't really get that from, I'm not going to mention any names, but if you're going online to do an auto quote, you don't know, most people don't know what they're doing. They don't know what kind of coverages they're selecting. So, I take a look at their policies and say, hey, you need to be covered more in your liability, or your home is way undershort here. So it really is bringing joy to my life where I can make a difference where I wasn't feeling that before. So, and at the same time, I can make time for, like, my son is starting to get into sports. So, if I want to go see him practice on a Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I can do that now. And my customers understand, where I will make sure that I get back to them as soon as I get home. So that was my main goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a similar trajectory, because I spent about 30 years in corporate IT, space for the most part. And where it stopped for me was when September 11th hit, right?
Mhm.
Because I had the IT bubble had burst. And so that was in the spring of that same year. And then I thought, oh, well, the IT bubble burst, there's not too many jobs, but the job market usually comes back in September. And I had some money in the bank, so I just kind of hung out for the summer and enjoyed my boat and had some fun. And I thought, all right, I'll hit the pavement hard in September. And boom, what happened, right?
Terrible. Yeah.
So then at that point, I found myself not really able to find any work in the IT field. So I had my real estate license forever. And, so I just jumped back into real estate at that point. So that was the sort of little push that I got to do it. Yeah. But,
it's important to find the silver lining. Obviously life, a lot of things are going to happen, and it's all about what you make out of it and try and turn a negative into a positive. And, the 9/11 horrendous, but you found a positive out of it at the end of the day. Same thing with the COVID. It was a terrible situation that's affected so many people. And, I decided to, instead of just, sit back and say, okay, I still have my job, I'm still okay. I decided to, I don't know if I would have done it if that didn't happen, because I was comfortable at my job. It was fine. I have no complaints. I love the company, good people over there. It's just, I wasn't fulfilled. And I don't know if the COVID didn't happen, I don't know if I would have changed. And, I decided just to, hey, let's try it out and see what happens. So, it made, it was a good decision on my part.
yeah. So tell me something about you that nobody would expect, if you can think of something like that.
Oh man, no one would expect. Let me see.
Do you have a hobby, or I don't know.
So, I mean, my number one right now is my kids. So, like, whatever they're gonna love, I'm gonna love with them. So, as of right now, my son is into sports. So, we're starting to play baseball together. We're starting to play basketball, football. So that's been an absolute joy. My daughter is starting to get into dance. So she does ballet a little bit, and we just had a Christmas show with her. So those are the things that I'm kind of focusing on right now. I do want to get back into more of where you were talking that before this, that you were going to Australia. I do want to start traveling a little more in the near future. I'm really into that. It's just I haven't been able to, with the career change, trying to build a book of business, add somebody to my team. and just be able to go out and feel comfortable with leaving is what my next goal is, to really, so we can go and build more memories traveling the world with my family, which is not happening right now, but that's my goal in life, is to make that happen.
That's cool. See, I'm on the other end. So mine are off to college. Got about 18 months left before they graduate. And so I'm an empty nester. And so I've got a lot of flexibility at the moment. And, you know, looking at how to, do some of that stuff. I joined a ski club. So I go skiing every Wednesday now. I actually went to a race camp last month for 5 days, and participated in a slalom, a GS, actually, not a slalom, but a GS race, and took 14th out of like 120 people. So,
stuff like that is great.
Yeah.
And you're making a situation like we were saying before. You're making a situation where it's it's a little sad. Your babies are growing up, and they're leaving the nest, like you said. But you're going to make the best out of it and finding new hobbies and things like that. And I know I'm going to go through the same thing and try and find things that I always love sports, but I tore my Achilles, and unfortunately I've gotten a little overweight than I want to, so I got to lose a couple of lbs. But I'm actually starting to get into golf a little bit. I was never a golfer. It's probably the most frustrating sport I've ever played in my life, because I was always pretty good at picking up sports. But golf, I just, I'll have an amazing hole the next hole I'm hitting 10, I'm going 10 over. So it's probably the most frustrating thing that I've ever gotten into. But when I do make the time, it's which is a little tough with the little kids. But when I do make the time, I'm trying to go out. This past summer, I think I went out about 5 times. I'm trying to increase that every year, just for some me time. It's even good for business, obviously. Sure. You can meet some people, talk with some people on the course. It's just a long day. I think 9 holes is the perfect amount for me. 18 is a little long, but we're getting there. So that's one thing I'm definitely starting to get into a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I never did it myself, because I was always a boater, and I would joke around with golfers and say, yeah, my golfing is in the 70s, and they'd be like, wow, you hit 70? I go, no, above 70, I'm on the boat. 70 degrees. Boating season and golfing season are the same season. Like, unless you're retired, you're not doing both.
No, absolutely, you can't. Yeah. How many hours would you say you go out on the boat for? Probably.
Oh, when I had it, I had it for 15 years, and I was on it every weekend. You get down here on the island in the summer, you're not leaving. You look back on the mainland, you see the thunderstorms, the dark clouds. You're like, no, I'm staying here. It's amazing the weather difference. Yeah,
absolutely. And did you keep your boat at a marina, or did you?
Yeah. I would come down on the weekends and stay on the boat. It was slept 6, at a kitchen, a bathroom. And the marinas always have nice showers and stuff. So
absolutely. That's a different life.
Yeah, I went to different marinas throughout, the years, but, made friends at different marinas, still have some of those friends today. It's pretty cool.
How does, because I always look at other areas, how is like being able to boat and go like dining to like different locations? Is there a lot of places on the water in Jersey where you can like dock and go have a bite to eat and stuff like that?
Definitely. So, if you look, you can go up the Maniloking River, and you can go up the Toms River. There's 2 restaurants. There's Beacon 70 up the Maniloking River. There's I can't remember the name of the place up the end of Toms River, but you go all the way up the end of it, and there's a place there. There's other places along the river. Of course, you can always go to the Manasquan Inlet, and you have the wharf side, the patio bar, the Sand Dollar or whatever on the Brielle side.
Right.
There's the other place, I'm trying to think of the name of it. Parrot and I don't know. Anyway, but there's places. There's definitely places. It was called Clark's Landing years ago. And then if you go into, down south of the Seaside Bridge, there's B2 Bistro bought the bar there on the water. And so it used to be that they had good bands there, but not very good food. Now they have good food and good bands. So that's pretty cool.
That's a big difference. Yeah.
And then they have Tice's Shoal. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's alongside of Seaside Park. And on a nice weekend, you take your boat down to Tice's Shoal, there'll be 1,000 boats there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I have heard of it. What do they tie each? Like
just
next to each other?
Yeah. A lot of people tie up with each other. You might see 5 or 6 boats tied to each other, but and there's a big weekend where everybody goes down there and it's just a mob, crazy scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's called a flotilla. So it's a great location to have a boat, and the bay here is not very deep. The average depth of the bay is 3 feet.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you actually have to be a little careful where you're driving your boat.
Yeah. And that's the beauty about New Jersey. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize, especially like out-of-staters. When I used to go to conferences and stuff, like they used to say, "Oh, New Jersey," and kind of look down on you. But we got so many cool things around here, man. It's we're right by this New York City, Philadelphia, the Poconos during the winter, even Poconos during the summer is cool to go on trails and stuff like that. We're very lucky. And then obviously the shore, we're just so lucky to be around here.
And pretty much an hour, right? If you look, you can be an hour to Philly, an hour to New York, an hour to Poconos. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky. And I know the real estate, I know you've seen it, has gotten pretty crazy. I think it's calming down a little bit right now, but it's the prices have gone through the roof.
People ask me that quite a bit lately. And so what I'm seeing though is entry-level housing, there just isn't any.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So depending on the market you're looking in, but if you're a first-time home buyer right now, there is not much on the market.
No, I feel bad. We're looking at that for insurance as well, as far as like, especially for auto. Like I feel really bad for the kids that are turning 17, 18. They're excited to get their license. If they don't have a good family structure where they can go on their parents' policy, which I run into that quite frequently. The policies for full coverage on an auto for 17, 18-year-olds, it's just not realistic. They're paying probably close to, $700-800 a month just to have, basic coverage on a car that they're buying, which I feel is completely different than when I was growing up. It's kind of sad what that aspect of New Jersey is getting a little sad, where, like you said, the first-time home buyers, they're losing their market. The young kids, if they don't have a good family structure, where they can just go on mom and dad's policy, that they can't afford anything. That aspect where the middle class, lower class to middle class is getting a little tough right now around here. And it's only going to get a little crazier with Netflix coming and a couple other things.
Yeah. Where's Netflix going?
Right by where I live. So I live in Tin Falls, and they're going into the old Fort Monmouth, which is, I guess, considered kind of Ocean Township. It's a mixture of Eatontown and Ocean Township. So it's going over there, and traffic is crazy over there as it is. So I don't know what that's going to be like in the next, they're supposed to, I guess, finish in 10 years. So I don't know what that's going to be like, but obviously the property value is going to go through the roof. However, I don't know the cost of living. I don't know what's going to happen with that. We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully there's a plan to bring in the infrastructure or whatever that will, make it possible. And
right? What it is right now, it definitely won't work. So, because traffic right now, without the fort there, because it used to be a fort until a lot of the forts got consolidated. God, I want to say maybe 10, 15 years ago. So I think that went down to Maryland. So it's been vacant for a good at least 10 years, if not longer. And so it's great that it's going to be used again. However, the infrastructure doesn't support what we currently have in the area. God forbid adding thousands of jobs, thousands of people coming to live here. So yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. Well, is there anything you want to add to this before we part?
No, I mean, if anybody out there wants to check on their coverage, it's a free 10-minute conversation. Make sure that you're covered well. If I can't beat the prices that you currently have, no problems. I just want to make sure that you're taken care of. And any of my realtor friends, any of my lender friends, give me a shout, and I'll treat everybody like they're my own. So I appreciate the time, Drew. I appreciate working with you. So yeah, anything anybody needs, just give me a shout.
All right, great. Oh, it's been good talking to you.
I appreciate it, man.
Catch you later.
All right, take care.